The Martians. Chapter 4. Over the next couple of hours Mark got a series of messages on his private line from the rest of the crew, beginning with Alex. "It's hard enough up here without you fucking everything up, Watney. Fuck you." Then Chris. "What in the blue whooping fuck were you thinking," was the nicest part of that one. Finally, Rick. "This one hurt. Why are you making my life more complicated? I didn't ask for any of this. I'm trying to keep my crew alive and the one thing they have in common right now is a loathing of you for hurting Beth." "What the fuck, dumbass? Why would you hurt Beth? What are you going to do next, shoot Bambi? Poison Ole Yeller? Have you totally lost your mind? If Lewis wasn't there with you the crew would probably just vote to leave your ass. I've got enough on my plate. Stop fucking up my world, asshole." Each got a letter back apologizing and explaining he had no idea how Beth felt, and each of those got a response back explaining that he was a moron. Beth got a long letter, begging forgiveness. She would have gotten a video message, but she refused to accept it. Finally, Lewis made him stop as he was just making things worse. NASA did not overhear the conversations of course but did notice an uptick in private message traffic and contacted Lewis. Without going into details, she suggested an intervention by Irene Shields, the crew's assigned psychologist, who spent the rest of the night and most of the next day trying to smooth hurt feelings and misunderstandings. The most difficult part was that of course everyone lied about the cause and blamed it on the tension of the mission. Beth's feelings for Watney, and their past together, never came up. This is not to say Irene wasn't helpful, as by the next night there were a lot of "I'm sorry and I understand" messages going back and forth. It was not the first time romantic affections had screwed up the personalities of a mission, nor the first time a group of alpha-type personalities had come to the rescue of a person with hurt feelings in space. The last time was Ozai, and then it was two of the three women crewmen taking up for one of the men. Without knowing the details, Irene was able to at least defuse the situation for the time being. The day of the messages Mark and Lewis slept in their own beds. After Irene defused the situation the tension eased somewhat, but not entirely. That night, Mark lay in his bunk wondering how he had missed all these signs he was supposed to see from Beth, but just couldn't. Still, he adored her, but thought of her with fondness rather than romantic love or lust. He thought, well, he did care for her but the mission came up and they had talked, and why couldn't she have just told him how he felt when they were together so they could mutually decide what to do about it? He began to realize that although he had suppressed it, he felt much the same way. Beth was amazing. The privacy curtain slid back, and Lewis stood there with her sleeping bag. "Move over, Mark," she said. As he pushed himself to one side he asked, "So you're not mad at me anymore?" "No, I'm furious. Now, spoon me. And if you ever make a comment about sleeping with all the women on Hermes, I will kill you while you sleep and make it look like an accident." "You're kidding, right?" "Not entirely. It was still better than sleeping alone." A week later the cursory inspection of Orion was complete. A more intensive inspection would occur as the systems were upgraded. To be replaced were all the computer and guidance systems, but this would actually result in a net saving of space. When Orion was developed there were not the cloud of satellites to assist with approach and landing, and the system necessary was already manufactured for the next upgrade of Hermes. Also replaced were the communication systems, but not only to allow for better communications with Earth, but also with all signals available from Mars, including headsets if necessary. The environmental systems were also to be replaced, again with more efficient main units and redundant systems. It would still be cramped, but once done Orion 3 would be a truly up-to-date craft. The engines were all checked out and tested, and all were in perfect order. Boeing and the various system vendors worked well together for once due to the urgent nature of their missions. All believed it could be ready for launch in 2 months, which would be a reasonably good launch window to make the trip to Mars in about 7 months. The crew was a different situation. Mitch had quickly found a pilot and a doctor. Requests were sent both to ASCAN candidates and the prospective RSV through 8 astronauts and their alternates. Each volunteer, and there were a lot of them, went through basic medical testing, had psych evaluations and were converted on paper to resumes which were devoid of any indication of race, sex or religion. This eliminated complaints of discrimination as they were then blindly reviewed, with the candidates meeting the baseline criteria being forwarded to Mitch Henderson for selection, then Venkat Kapoor and Teddy Sanders for approval. It was decided quickly that RSV pilot Anna Washburn would be the pilot. She had the most time in MAV and MDV simulators and the highest scores on them as well. She had a master's in astrophysics focusing on astrodynamics, and her knowledge of the navigation systems and data analysis from them was second to none in the training groups. In addition, she had been a heavy aircraft pilot in the Air Force, and had time in VTOL aircraft as well. Coupled with an accident-free record with near-perfect academics, she was an easy choice. Med Candidate 3.5-2 was also an easy pick. Of all the doctors that applied, she had the most orthopedic and nutrition experience. It was assumed that broken bones and malnutrition would be her most likely maladies to be faced. She had significant psych work in her background as well, which made her medical training and experience perfect for the mission. She had prior space flight experience, having been on the refurb crew prior to Rs-3 but had not actually met the current crew at that time. Dana Abernathy was near perfect for the job. The engineer was the problem. Yes, all the systems save propulsion would be replaced, but all would run off a central hydrogen cell generator and backup, as well as the wiring harness itself. Even this had been upgraded with beryllium-based inductor panels and solar cells. A myriad of systems would have to be known, and the ship had been designed nearly 20 years earlier. No one had kept up knowledge of it, as once Hermes came online, it was obsolete. The people who designed it were mostly in their 40s at that time and in their 60s now. Few were still employed by NASA, as most had retired, and none were in shape to go into space. ASCAN did not have a single candidate who knew anything at all about the ship, and Mitch confirmed this by calling the training director and asking him to search for someone. That call is what finally led to the engineering candidate. They had been in ASCAN 6 years earlier but failed the first cycle when they caught pneumonia and had to be hospitalized. On their second cycle, basically their second and last chance, they sprained an ankle with but a few days remaining in the course and were washed from the program. They could reapply, but never did. Extremely loyal to NASA and dreaming of space, this candidate stayed on in another role and were both age-appropriate and reported to be in great health. Mitch knew he had found his engineer, and after talking with Teddy and Venkat, they readily agreed. Me? Mindy asked with alarm. Elrond was to meet in half an hour, but Mindy had been summoned early to meet with Venkat, Mitch and Teddy. She thought she was there for the regular meeting until she was offered a spot on Orion. Yes. You. I've read your thesis. You are probably the world's leading expert on that ship that is physically flight-worthy at the moment, and we don't have time to teach someone from scratch. You basically completed ASCAN 6 years ago, you had 2 days left when you sprained your ankle, so we can crash course what you need. We already have the training mock-up ready. You came here to go to space. Your country needs you. Lewis and Watney need you. But there are other engineers more familiar with. With what? Hermes. The HAB ground systems. We have Mark, Martinez and Johansson for those. We need someone who is familiar with Orion. There is exactly one person in the world who is fit, of an age safe to launch, and knows those systems. I've read your thesis too. You put your heart into it. I wondered how you even knew it was at Discovery. I guess I should have read your bio more. Thing is, you are it. There is no backup plan for this. It's you, or it's someone who learns it in a couple weeks. How long did it take you to write your thesis? About a year and a half. Think anyone else can do it in 2 weeks? Well, no, I mean. I have to ask, are you pregnant, or is there any chance you might be? What? You can't ask that. Venkat nearly shouted. We have to know, I'm sorry. Teddy continued. No. And there is no chance I am, unless it's by immaculate conception. Geez, why? Because everyone in America would kill us if we sent a pregnant astronaut on a 2-year voyage. Oh. That makes sense. I'm sorry, I had to ask. If you were still in training, we would probably know already. Are you single? Married? Oh, very single. No worries there. Any family you need to consult? Sorry, but we need an answer pretty quick. Mitch finally spoke. I should call my parents. When I went into a scan, they were really proud and happy. I think they might have been happier when I washed. This, well, it might be weird, I don't know what they are going to say. But my answer is yes regardless. Talk to them first. I want your complete confidence in your decision. Can you let us know by tomorrow morning? You have a lot to do in just a few weeks. I can't get EVA certified in that time. No, but your pilot and doctor already are, and Lewis can certify you once there. She's listed as an EVA trainer still. You would be third backup on EVA. Probably second on piloting, but that's no big deal. I've never flown anything before. The pilot will fly, you just watch the gauges when she needs a break. The telemetry will come in from Houston once the flight is launched. The only time anyone will touch the controls is for a correction and landing takeoff. Your pilot will be awake for that. I didn't ask, but you're going to be together for quite a while. Any problem with an all-female crew? No, I think I would prefer that. Mindy replied, thinking to herself it would be fine as long as those bitches keep their claws away from her Watney. Oh. If this is Elrond material, can I even talk to my folks about it? Mindy asked as she stood to leave the room to make the call in private. Can they keep a secret? Yes, Director Sanders, yes. I will stress that. Well, they only have to keep a secret until you say yes. If you say no, it won't really matter. Venkat said. I think you're confused. I already said yes. I run my own life. I just think I should tell them what I dreamed of since I was in second grade is coming true. Mindy smiled and almost skipped out the door as she was so happy.